A terrifying 911 call came in one late afternoon, and the call center officer knew right away that a very little child was on the other end of the line. While little Angelica was crying, the officer comforted her and helped her gather accurate information.
Welcome to Amazing Truth Channel. Do not forget to subscribe and activate the bell button to receive all new. Now go to the story.
The girl informed the officer that her mother hadn't woken up from her sleep and that she was hungry. She persuaded her mother to get up from where she was lying down because she wanted a sandwich. The girl said that no one else was with them when the police questioned if she was at home by herself with her mother. In addition, little Angelica said that even though her mother would not wake up, she was quite fond of Diane. The officer didn't stop asking inquiries. Though she was too young to give her address, Angelica mentioned that they lived close to a park. She was also able to describe the trees in their home, but that didn't really help the officers figure out where to look. Subsequently, the officer inquired if Angelica was aware of the neighbors' names. Fortunately, the young child was able to recall that she was occasionally taken care of by Uncle Jerry and Auntie Trish. The officer instructed Angelica not to hang up the phone but to go to the neighbor's house and see whether they were home. She ought to bring one of the grown-ups to the phone if they were. If they were not, she should come back and speak to the officer again. Angelica showed a lot of bravery by opening the front door and visiting the neighbor's home, but sadly, they weren't there. A train going by was the first thing the contact center officer heard when she came back with the news. When she inquired about the existence of a train track close by, Angelica said that the train did pass their home multiple times a day and that she frequently observed it from the back porch. With a few hints in hand, the police could now attempt to piece together the small girl's whereabouts. She called a coworker for assistance, and together they looked over a map of the area to find homes that were close to both rail tracks and parks. As fate would have it, the two trains that were passing through the city at the time of the call were only a few miles apart, and both tracks had parks as their boundaries. To pinpoint the little girl's location, they required an additional hint. The officer made an effort to get more details out of her. Angelica was able to report to the officer that she saw an elderly man strolling down the street with his dog, and that she could make out the outline of a star outside the window. Not very helpfully, she also mentioned that the house in front of hers had a wooden door. Little Angelica kept inquiring about her mother, and the minutes seemed to stretch into hours. She was right next to her and could see that her skin was quite cold. The contact center officer ordered the kid to cover her mom's body with a blanket and tried to coax her outside of her room, but Angelica was deeply attached to her mother and wouldn't leave her alone. Because of their intimacy, the officer asked her to share details of their lives. It came out that Diane had never mentioned Angelica's father or her own parents and had raised her daughter alone her entire life. Despite working long hours throughout the day, she consistently made it home in time to give her kid a goodnight kiss and tuck her into bed. They would frequently go feed the ducks in the park's pond and enjoy ice cream from the large shop across the street when she wasn't working. The officer had been waiting for these clues. Only one of the two parks she'd found featured a large enough pond for ducks, and it faced what must have been the large ice cream shop that Angelica was now babbling about. They needed this break badly. Officer Stacy was sent to the area of the young girl who was in need as soon as the police had narrowed down the region. Though the squad was not exactly sure where they were pretty sure they were in the right area. The phone operator had to use all of her skills to keep the exhausted but enthusiastic Angelica on the line, telling her everything she saw and heard. Angelica spoke of the distant dog barking and the lights of passing cars, but she also claimed to be able to hear the ice cream truck singing as it went by. Officer Stacy also heard the ice cream truck at that exact moment. The responding officer gave a hearty round of applause and assured young Angelica that assistance was on its way. Holding a red spotlight, Officer Stacy asked a dispatcher to connect her with the girl before making her way down the street. She instructed Angelica to unlock the door and call her name if she saw the light, making broad circular movements with the light and pointing into each yard on the block. Officer Stacy asked some of the neighbors who had come out of their homes if they knew a girl named Angelica. She soon found the house, and as she flashed her red light once more, a small, terrified girl ran up to her and leaped into her arms. "Mom is not awakening." "I'm hungry and scared," Angelica stated before breaking down in tears. Officer Stacy asked if someone could get Uncle Jerry and Auntie Trish since she didn't want to accompany her back inside the house. She left the young child in their care while the neighbors frantically searched for them and arrived on the scene. She inhaled deeply, then went into the flat to see if she could find her comatose mother. The home was in poor condition. She called Diane's name as she moved from room to room, but she got no answer. She had a strange sense about what she would discover upstairs when she stood at the base of the stairs. She had a deep affection for kids and a strong desire to shield them from the harsh truths of life. She had a deep affection for them for a very personal reason. So it wasn't only that they were pure and innocent that made them hold a special place in her heart. For the last 5 years, Stacy and her husband Rob had been attempting to have a child of their own. Medically, none of them had any issues, but for some reason, the wonderful news was never shared. Stacy had begun throwing herself into the work as a way to get away from it all. She put in a lot of overtime and consistently went above and beyond what was required, particularly when it came to situations involving children. She completed her assignments quite well. When it came to child protection, she would be the greatest police officer in the nation if she were unable to have children of her own. Stacy experienced a lot of horrible things while working, but she never adjusted to death. She always found it terrible to find a dead body, and as soon as she arrived on the first floor, she could smell the stink of death. In the main bedroom, she found the cold and rigid body of a young woman. She must have died the night before. The little child, who had been waiting for assistance for nearly 10 hours, touched Stacy's heart. As the ambulance came to take Angelica's body away, Stacy made sure she was out of sight. She stayed with the girl, even though her shift was finished, until social services came to pick her up. The next day at work, Stacy could not get Angelica out of her thoughts. She was aware that the trauma would only exacerbate the anguish the young child had experienced the day before, and that she would have to confront the tragic news of her mother's passing. She yearned to give her the love she deserved and needed, as well as to shield her from any harm. But how could she do that? Then, Stacy saw an opportunity blossoming right in front of her eyes. When she told her husband Rob that she wanted them to adopt this little child, he was initially taken aback. After weighing the advantages and disadvantages, the couple decided that they ought to try to find Angelica a place to live. They had always desired to have their own children, after all, and this girl was in dire need of a family that would adore her. Little Angelica was immediately entrusted to their care, eager for a fresh opportunity at love and serenity after the court accepted their application without hesitation. What a heartbreaking tale. Regarding the call center officer's skills, what are your thoughts? When did you need to dial 911? And if you had been Stacy, would you have also adopted tiny Angelica? Leave a comment below to let us know. I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you later.
If you like the story, surely the next video that's appearing on your screen will move you too. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, give us a thumbs up, and activate the notification bell so you won't miss any of our next videos. A huge kiss, and see you in the next story.